Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, self-care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today, we're going to talk about white privilege. I'm Lady Bounce.
I'm Kryptonite.
All right. So you want to start with the mindfulness minute first
here we
go into it?
Right. Oh, I didn't do the one thing. Okay, but anyway, this is called the right teaching. Through the vistas of the past, the voice of the centuries is coming down to us. The voice of the stages of the Himalayas and the recluses of the forest. The voice that came to the Semitic races. The voice that spoke through Buddha and other spiritual giants. The voice that comes from those who live in the light that accompanied man in the beginning of the earth. The light that shines wherever man goes and lives with him forever is coming to us even now. This voice is like the little rivulets that came from the mountains. Now they disappear, and now they appear again in stronger flow till finally they unite in one mighty, majestic flow. The right teachings appear when you are ready for them. You don't need to look very hard. Only listen to your heart, to the inner guide. The wrong teachings when the wrong teachings when seen through the inner guide will appear cold and lifeless. The right teachings for you will appear warm and glowing. If you learn to listen to this guide, you will be spared many wrong turns and dead ends. Your path to illumination will be shorter as you learn to trust in your intuition. You will receive hidden guidance just because you were willing to ask for it and wait for it. Get in touch with your inner guide this evening by living in a slow and silent manner. Do nothing extraneous. Work diligently, but with no haste or aggression. Above all, pay attention. If you can live in this way for long enough, you will begin to receive nudges about the right direction for your life. As you follow these nudges one at a time, a transformation will begin to take place in your life. Do not try to measure this change. Just take one step at a time. So I chose the right teachings because our topic of discussion today is a documentary that is on Netflix by Chelsea Handler. And it's called Hello, White Privilege. I'm Chelsea. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was very daring of her, and she's kind of a controversial comedian.
She is
controversial white chick, you know.
Mm-hmm. Who dates black guys?
Yeah, she loves her dark meat. Yes. And she had a few people on there. She had Tiffany Haddish and she had Kevin Hart on there, and she interviewed both of them. And Tiffany Haddish, her interview resonated with me a little more because she was almost brought to tears. You could hear it in her voice that she was really, and I think because of her past, if anybody knows anything about her past, then we all know that she was in a lot of foster homes. She was in foster care, and she didn't really have a family that she could call her own growing up. And part of her answer to in the interview, or part of her statement in the interview, is that white people know where they come from. They have a history that they can go back to, that they can trace. Whereas black people basically don't. We pretty much, all we know is that we came here as slaves. And there's really no record of who we were or what we did before then, because it was all erased. They wanted us to take on their names, their way of life, go by what they wanted, their religion, and what they wanted us to do, what they wanted us to know. So a lot of that had gotten erased throughout the generations. And with Tiffany Haddish, her answer really did resonate with me, because you could tell that she really felt that. It was really an emotional moment for her in that moment. Also, I thought it was pretty brave of Chelsea Handler, because she went further than just doing a documentary. And she really got into a point where at the poetry reading, where she was really kind of taken to task about what the point of her documentary was.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of the brothers and sisters was like, what is the point? Like,
right.
Okay, you're going to do this documentary and then what?
Right. What happens after this? What are you going to take from this back into your community, your space, your comfortable spaces with your people, with your tribe, if you will? And then what? And I think that's a question that is hard to answer, but it also is a question that has to be answered. Because it's like, so what, now what? Okay, so what? You did this documentary. Now what? What are you going to do? These places where you frequent with these people that actually have the power to make the needed changes that would be beneficial to all. Are you going to rally those people to do something? Or are you just going to keep this knowledge that you gain or this epiphany that you now have? And that's all it becomes, is growth for you. But what about everybody else? Or what, not even everybody else, but what about other people? So you got it. Now what?
I think for her, even in that moment, that was something that she had not thought about. Like, you could tell that when that question was posed to her, that
she kind of paused.
She took pause with it, and she did kind of think about it. Like, I'm exercising my privilege, just making this show about white privilege. Right. And she really did seem to take it in, like, yeah, what do I do with it now? Like, I'm going to do this and it's going to be done, but yeah, like, then what? You know, and it was kind of a question that she accepted and even kind of seemed to pose to herself in a moment of reflection when she was on the ride back in the car. Mm-hmm. But, you know, at least she did it, right?
I mean, she did it. And then I wonder how many people that saw it, no matter what race, got something out of it to give them a starting point to make movements, to do something. Even if it's like, nobody expects any one person to change everybody's mind or change the whole world, but in your little pocket, in your circle, did it resonate with people enough that they're like, wait a minute, in my pocket of the world, I can do this to make it better, or I can do this to change it? Do you think people got that from it, or is it just entertainment?
I think it's going to be, anything that you take in is what you make of it.
Right.
So it's all dependent upon what you decide to do with the information that you receive. And I think that the documentary was done in such a way that if you watched it and you didn't consider the different points of views, or the contrast of the different points of views, or the contrast of the dialogue, mm-hmm. then you wasted your time, because it was not, it was entertaining,
right?
Only to a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was entertaining. Like, when I first saw, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta watch this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But to watch it, you really did. You had to take in information. You had to take in the different mindsets of the people that she was talking to. Yes. And you even had to take in her mindset of where it was she was really trying to go, because she didn't impose her thoughts upon anyone.
Right.
There was a point where she sat down, I believe in Orange County, with a group of white ladies, and the conversation was quite different from the conversation she had with the group of black college students, which of course it would be.
Right.
But the point is, where there was, for the most part, at least one white woman for sure just didn't get it. Right.
She was like, well, I did this and I did that and I made something of myself. I don't understand how come they can't just do it too.
Right. There's that. That's that privilege. And then the other one is they should just get over it.
Right.
That's the lady I was talking about.
Oh,
the lady that I was talking about.
What? That ended over 400 years ago.
Yeah, why can't they just let it go? Why can't they get over it? Well, same reason why you can't get over that we should take down these statues of people that enslaved us. You know,
right? I mean, or in the same regard that they talk about the Holocaust victims Holocaust survivors and what it did to Jewish people and what it did for race relations of that time. So in the same regard that they won't let that go, why should we let our Holocaust go?
Exactly. Why should we just forget about that? And especially when we still have systems that are set up to keep us in those same enslaved positions in society.
Right. And one of the biggest differences between their Holocaust and our Holocaust is that while they did go through years of suffering, the level of suffering that they went through doesn't compare to the savagery that we endured. Now, their concentration camps were rough, but they mainly starved them and then they burned them or they put them in a gas chamber. We were raped in front of our children. We were raped in front of our husbands. We were told that we weren't worthy of having these subsystems of a family. We weren't allowed to learn how to read. You know, that was forbidden. That was a crime. And we weren't allowed to even, you know, take baths. And it lasted for years. As opposed to, and I'm not saying that their Holocaust is like, it's not comparing, you know, your pain to my pain. But in terms of what we endured, I'd almost rather you just put me in the gas chamber and it be over than to keep going through it and going through it. And now if you look at what has happened in our world as a result, you know, they say the Jewish people own everything, or there's like jokes about the Jewish mafia and this, that, and the other. They were able to somehow come out of it and end up a lot of times in good places and end up on top. And we still over here going,
yeah, well,
is there a top?
Because when we tried, they bombed us.
Exactly.
You know, and multiple times. We tried multiple times. And exactly. And so each time
if
we
got
bombed.
Forget, then why should we?
Right. Well, and then you've done so much.
Right.
So like, why should we? Like, you need to be reminded. I
agree.
I mean, quite honestly, when it comes down to, I guess Holocaust or how, you know, whatever you want to say, we're second only to Indians, because they pretty much, they wiped out the Indians. Yes. You know what I mean? They just pretty much.
And with a smile.
Yeah.
Here's a blanket full of diseases.
There Keep yourself warm. You know, and they just pretty much tried to just totally wipe them out. We're only here because we were their economic structure. You know what I mean? We contributed to their economic structure. Right.
We were their entertainment.
We were their finance.
We were their everything. Concubines. We were their
all of that.
I mean, we were everything. And you know, when I think of
we created so much, so many things that we don't even realize that we created, because the only thing that, well, they say, I'm not going to say, but you know, they say the only original thing that white people created was the patent. So, you know, if you were an indentured servant to a white man and you came up with a great idea, it was not your idea.
No, not at all.
It was his.
We didn't even own our thoughts.
Right, I mean, exactly. You know, so much was taken.
How could you say that, you know, we should forget or we should just get over it? We didn't even own our thoughts. I mean, think about that.
Well, I mean, it's easy to say when it's not your history, when it's not your reality, when it's not part of your being. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
right.
She said that, but she comes from a state of white privilege.
Right.
So there that is.
Like, you know, like Tiffany said too, Chelsea, you know your story.
Right.
You've never been on the bottom. You've never had a time in history where you've been on the bottom and you had to claw your way back from being on the bottom or under the bottom for, you know,
or
for
even
us.
having to fight to get to where you are. Like, honestly, you
didn't have to have special laws created just so you could know that there was a table.
The door.
Yeah,
right.
So, you know, not even have a seat at the table, but we had to create laws just so we could see there's a table over there.
Yeah.
And then eventually we're like, oh, can I get a chair? Is there a chair? Is there a stool? Is there a stool? Is there?
What I thought was really interesting about her her documentary was that she dated a guy, and I forget it. I think it was Tyshaun or was it Tyshaun?
Yeah,
but she dated a black man
and became pregnant by him more than once,
and was pregnant by him at one point, and she was a teenager and he was a teenager, And she used to, she talked about how she did drug runs with him and how she was there with him when he got stopped by police, and how the police would let her go, but they would keep him, and how for so long she was just totally ignorant as to why that was going on. And she didn't realize until she got older that it was really white privilege, that it was the color of her skin that got her out of those situations. But that man ended up doing 15 years in jail. Now, that was not her fault. You know what I'm saying? Basically, yeah, it was choices that was made at the time. But she also understood that the choices that he made were not done out of selfishness. They were done because he didn't feel as though he had another choice.
Right. And so many times it's always said, I got to do what I got to do. My family got to eat. My mama got to eat. I got to do what I got to do. And unfortunately, the options for us even now are very slim. So we got to do what we got to do.
They're limited. I mean, especially when you are in the projects and every day you see the same people. Everybody's doing the same thing. You're living with crackheads. You're related to crackheads. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know that's not a whole lot of us.
Children learn what they live.
Now. Yeah, you learn what you live, right? And when the people that you are looking up to are the dudes on the corner, the guys out there in the street, it doesn't leave you feeling as though you have a whole lot of options. You know what I mean?
Right.
And especially when you need money now, because
it looks glamorous. I mean, to a certain extent, it looks glamorous. It looks fun. It looks like you are living the life. But what these people who are in that life often don't tell the young people that are looking up to them is the reality. I can't sleep at night.
I'm not even sure.
I'm always looking over my shoulder when I'm driving because I don't know if the cops gonna get me or if that man that I wronged is gonna come get me. They don't. Yeah,
and I'm not even sure that's the. I don't know. Because things are so different now as to when we grew up. Right. I don't know if I don't believe it's the same at all. Like, I don't think dope boys are making money. You know what I mean? Not for real.
They may not be, they're not, making like riches, but they make it enough where they're living what looks comfortable.
Right. And able to provide some sort of comfort for the family, or whatever. But that's kind of getting off topic in because I don't really know. I don't know nothing about the dope world to really even talk about it.
I know enough because the kids that I service live it.
See, so I got a different aspect.
Yeah, so I get a glimpse into it, and for me, with my square job and my square degrees, trying to tell these kids that this life you see isn't really what you see. Yeah, he got a nice car. Yeah, it looks like he's got 3 or 4 chicks, but he also don't sleep well at night. He also got to make his home out in the suburbs because the same hood that he sells in, he can't live in.
Man, let me tell you.
And then once you get a couple of felonies racked up on you, you have totally locked yourself out of the rest of the world.
Functional society.
Right. So it makes it more prevalent that white privilege kicks in because you've locked yourself out of having any type of privilege in any capacity.
I see what you're saying.
So it makes that sore.
Yeah.
So while white privilege is truly a thing, one thing that I think black people don't do well is that we don't look at ourselves and go, how am I solving it, fixing it, or how am I keeping it going? And then we get to a point where we get so far pushed back, we don't even attempt to push forward anymore. We like, this is where I'm at, this is what it is, and I'm cool.
Comfort.
You get comfortable zone. And you just start living down here.
But I think as far as that goes, that's all about how you really want to live. I mean, because at some point you got to realize this can't be life. At some point you got to realize this can't be every day. I can't keep doing it like this. I got to do something legitimate I there's gotta be a retirement plan. I gotta be able to put something in my name. I gotta be able to go buy a house and not have anybody look at me like, where'd this money come from? Because you've never had a job. And I can't put it in somebody else's name for fear of, if we break up, that they're going to take it out. You know, at some point you really got to think about that. And I think, you know, I don't know, because like, I don't have any insight to that world, but I'm just saying that at some point you got to realize that can't be your life forever. But
what other options do I have if I live in this world full of white privilege that I don't know how to navigate? And
now there it is. That's the issue right there. Learn to navigate it, because you have to. There has to come a point. If you can learn to navigate the street, then you need to learn how to navigate life.
I agree.
Because streets is not your life unless that's what you make it. If you decide to stay there, then that's where you'll always be. You know what I mean? But if you decide at some point, like, okay, I'm going to take this time while I'm incarcerated, or while I'm in this little situation I'm in or whatever, to go get educated on a trade, or go get a degree, so that I can step up and maneuver and navigate in this world of white privilege and oppressive systems. And so, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't think a lot of, you know, I think the way that she went about doing the documentary and just taking on the task of the topic itself was really commendable, because she took and she examined her own life. She got opinions from other people. She went into venues and spaces that most white people would not feel comfortable going into. Right. You know, and she made an attempt, you know what I'm saying, to try and really connect and really be informed. And that was the thing. She didn't just come in asking questions. She came in really seeking knowledge, really trying to understand where she is and how she might be able to make a change or make something better or make an effort. Right. And she did plenty of interviews. She did quite a few interviews. You know, she interviewed I can't think of his name. The CNN show
Tim Wise.
No, not yes, Tim Wise. She interviewed him.
She interviewed this comedian named Kamal.
That's who it is. That's who I'm thinking of. That's what I'm thinking of.
Married to a white woman.
Right. And he does that show on CNN. Oh, what is it called? Something America.
I want to say
Colors of America or
it's something like that. Or like, yeah, because he originally wanted to call it Black in America, and CNN was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, too much.
Too much. Yeah. You're taking them too fast. So yeah, but he is married to a white woman. So he talked about, you know, going places with his wife and doing things and navigating this world on both sides of it, because he is afforded a certain amount of white privilege because he has money.
Because he has money and because
he's married to a
white
white woman.
Right.
Yeah, which is crazy. So as a black man who gets the privilege to toggle those worlds.
And that's only if you messing with the right people, because then you got some white people that's like, right. You know, that's tainted. Whatever, tainted you know goods. What I mean? You know, they just don't approve or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, and it just depends on who you dealing with in that.
I think so, because you know the world, like Serena's married to a white man.
Is she married? I didn't know she got married.
Yeah, she married.
She married her baby daddy,
and he's a billionaire. So yeah,
I ain't mad at her.
He got dough, and people were like mad and up in arms, and I'm like,
you know,
why?
Really?
Like what? First of all, why are you mad? You didn't have a chance with her. Let's start there.
Because of what she said. It's because of what she said. But how you can't deny her truth. Right. That's her truth.
Right. You know, you can't tell me not to live my life or not to like you said, live in my truth. This is who I am. At the end of the day, I'm still a black woman who still gets shut out of a lot of things just because I'm black.
Or treated differently
because I'm black. Right. And then I chose to marry a white man, and I'm shunned even more for that. Own community. Yeah. Right. So now she's catching it from both sides. So
and that's a whole nother topic. Because that's something I would get into, but that is a whole nother topic, because so many men were so pissed off.
Yeah.
By that. But I have a I have a take on that that's another segment.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna say because that's a whole
so we have to table that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother segment there.
And it's a not to go off into the rabbit hole of that, but it is a thing about when white men choose black women versus when black men choose white women. It's a whole thing, and it's a whole weird dynamic thing. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to talk about that thing.
It's like it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a huge double standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, yes. But it's like you did it though. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a point where you told us that we wasn't. See, I'm about to get into it.
No, don't get into it. All right.
I'm gonna try not.
All right. So you got our self-care assignment.
Do I? What did I do? No, I didn't.
Okay.
I told you that was the thing I forgot to look up. I was so busy looking for the other that I forgot to look for that.
So then we'll say for this episode, your self-care is to live in your truth. Live in your biases. Correct those biases that you live with and that you live in. Because we all have them. We have implicit biases. We have biases that are inflicted upon us by what we see. Yeah. So you have these biases. So I'm going to say for this episode of self-care is figure out those biases, know them, and then figure out how to deal with people without letting your biases show. Just figure that out. Because it's rough when it comes to white privilege, black privilege, because we got some of those too. Okay.
Be open-minded.
I'll take that.
Like, forget the stereotypes. Be open-minded. You know what I mean? Because you don't know anybody's struggle. You don't know the next person's struggle. You don't know the who's, the what's, the whys, the wheres. You don't know. And everybody's story is different. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there's brain science for everything. Well, brain science me, sis.
I'm a brain science me. So, we're going to talk about understanding the racist brain. I bet you didn't know that there was such a thing.
Of course I did. I'm a black woman.
Okay.
There's a sexist brain, a racist brain.
Yes, there is.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So calling someone a racist is a serious accusation with powerful psychological effects. Such a label should only be used when there is compelling evidence to support it, as there's no better way to lose a potential ideology ally than by calling them a racist when they really are not one. So with that being said, it is just as harmful to society to pretend that racism doesn't exist and that it isn't a massive problem. So there are neurological pathways that will explain the underlying racism. So this one's really long, so I'm just going to shorten it for the second time. So brain imaging studies have shown that people who display implicit bias have a stronger electrical response to black or other races faced in an area of the brain called the amygdala, which is down here. It is the structure responsible for processing emotional stimuli and eliciting fearful or anxious mental state. An exaggerated amygdala response is part of what creates that sudden, visceral, or gut feeling of being scared. That's your fight, flight, or fright response. Mm. So, in people with healthy functioning brains, the fast amygdala response activates a region of the brain known as the prefrontal cortex, which is up here, which is slower and plays a regulatory role when the fear system is triggered.
I got a big one of those because boy, I be sitting around like, look, hey, hold
so your prefrontal areas work to assess the situation rationally and calm those pesky automatic systems that make you fearful, i.e. when you see black people, you cross the street, you lock your doors, you grab your purse.
You shoot them.
Or you shoot them. Yes. Mm. So thanks to these studies in specific regions of the brain, the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain exercises cognitive control, suppressing inappropriate or prejudiced judgments and behavior. So the problem with that is not everyone has a healthy functioning prefrontal cortex.
Ain't that the truth?
And these are the people who let their biases control them. Mm-hmm. They cannot reason those fearful surges away because they lack the cognitive mechanisms that normally allow people to do so. So interestingly enough, these imaging studies have found links between impaired frontal lobes, functioning, and religious fundamentalism.
Now, see, to hear that put that way, Because I've always thought of racism as a learned thing. Because as children, you don't know what it is until your parents teach it to you. Right. Or until someone teaches it to you.
But so think about...
what does that mean? Does that mean that I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, what does that mean? Because that would imply, scientifically, that you're either born racist or you're not.
Yes and no. It shows that, as you said, children are not born with it. It has to be cultivated. So when you think about brain science and brain development and rearing children, we are rearing the children based on what we know, based on what we've been taught, based on what we've been shown. Mm-hmm. So when our children's brains are forming, we're teaching them what we know. So in fact, we are teaching them, we are shaping how their prefrontal cortex. So
basically, all of the Ku Klux Klan had their frontal cortex shortened.
Exactly, by lack of good teaching.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So all that superior white folk nation individuals, no matter what degree they got little itty bitty frontal cortexes.
Yes. So here's how you fix it in a nutshell. One prominent and fascinating feature of your brain is its plasticity, or the ability to be rewired in response to new incoming information from our environment and our new experiences. Through exposure to new stimuli, new symptom connections can be formed, creating neural pathways that can promote a restructuring of old and rigid belief systems. Additionally, cognitive exercises like focused breathing and meditation can train your prefrontal cortex to attenuate a hyperactive amygdala and control those bad instincts. Ooh.
So basically, you can kick your frontal lobe into gear and just get it pumping and get it growing if you receive proper information, the nutrients of the mind.
So look,
to get it growing and nutrition and water it.
So with those efforts that you just mentioned,
yeah,
those efforts might not do much to change the worldview of a staunch racist. That could require more extreme therapeutic measures such as pharmacological treatment,
shock therapy
to reset the brain, cycloblin, which is the ingredient in magic mushrooms or LSD, along with talk therapy
stuff in Disney movies,
could be an effective way to alter your worldviews and dissolve your biases.
Hey, look, we need to make a great big old motion picture movie thing of the Boondocks and put a whole bunch of subliminal stuff in there for the grow white folks frontal cords. I'm sleepy. Yeah, don't pay me no attention.
Unfortunately, this will require the racists to be open-minded enough to give such an experimental treatment a try, which is unlikely, but not impossible. When we should remember that, in fact, which is worth reiterating, it is not impossible. So it is not impossible to change the mind of a racist.
It's not. That's a good thing. Maybe one day we can all change. We can kumbaya with the white sheets.
Maybe. Possibly.
Hopefully one day we can get all that racism crap up out of here.
And the best way
before Mother Nature and God decide that they going to tsunami us all
because
take us out with mosquitoes from the Amazon that's carrying brain eating disezises.
Yeah,
I'm so scared to go outside. I ain't even playing. I'll be outside and back like, oh, I feel them. They bouncing off me. I'm going in. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm like, oh no. I mean, you can't avoid a mosquito bite for real. If you go outside, it's out there. But good Jesus, my brain is going to deteriorate. I'm already going to have dementia. I don't need to get bit to make it happen even faster.
But you're not going to have dementia. You know why? Because you, like many of our viewers and listeners, take the time to first love yourself, which is the Fly With Us acronym. So as you practice the self-care and you recognize your implicit biases and you're working to fix them and you're working to change the world through us, because that's what we're doing. And every time we go out and we touch somebody else, for every episode that they see, we are changing the world one episode at a time.
Look at you with that ribbon and that bow. You gonna tying it up again.
You gotta tie it all up and make it work.
You put it in a box this time, girl.
In a pretty box.
It was pretty with glitter.
So you can find us in our box on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube, and you can email us at flywithusla@gmail.com. I'm Lady Bounce.
I'm Kryptonite.
And we out.
All right.